All right, we are ready to get started. I want to welcome you to today's live. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Rhonda M. Jordan, and what I do is I focus in on teaching individuals who are 45 years of age and older how to create income and run a business, an online business, using digital products. But we don't just focus in strictly on the digital products aspect of the business because there are things you have to do beforehand. So I also teach you how to build an audience from scratch, how to build an email list, and then determine based upon your audience what products they're interested in so you can create and sell them. So if in fact that is something you're interested in, you are definitely in the right place. I want to say welcome to you, and I appreciate you being here. I see you are here, Mickey. Please be careful as you are driving along. Today, what we're going to be doing is discussing something that I don't see discussed very often, but it is extremely important. And what we're going to talk about is, once you create that lead magnet to get people on your email list, what do you do next? Because oftentimes people don't really know what the next steps are. And when I say people, I mean individuals that are fairly new to building an email list. So I'm going to take all of the mystery out of it, and it might be easier than you think it is, but if you miss any of the steps, you're going to miss out on opportunities to truly connect with your audience. So, hopefully, you have taken the time to grab something to take notes with, or just know that you can always watch the replay, which will be available on my channel under the live tab. So let's go ahead and talk about lead magnets, because maybe you're really not even familiar with what it is you should do, how you should focus in. I just want to give you a quick overview. A lead magnet is nothing more than a tool of some sort. And when I say tool, I mean a ebook, a guide, a checklist, a swipe file, something along those lines. It could even be a master class that you create for your audience, and they in turn will find it so valuable that they're willing to exchange their email address to get your guide, your master class, whatever it is that you happen to be offering. Now, once you do that, essentially those individuals end up on your email list. So, what you're able to do now is to begin developing and nurturing the relationship with them. And what I mean by that is you get the opportunity to connect with them by sending out emails. Typically, you're going to be sending those out on a weekly basis and so forth. And once you are able to then continue developing that relationship and continue nurturing them, you're now warming up that individual, and people who are warm leads, if you will, or have been on your list, they're much more likely to buy the products that you create, because oftentimes they're telling you what they're struggling with, and then you can just turn around and create it. So that's a quick overview of a lead magnet, if you will. Now, one thing I want to point your attention to is if you have created a lead magnet, but you don't yet have a way of distributing that, well, you're going to do that via a landing page. And I have a link in the video description below that teaches you how to create a landing page in a matter of minutes using a software that I highly recommend called System.io. Actually, you can set up an account free of charge, and that's one of the best things about it, and it has the ability to handle your email messages. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead now and let's assume that people have gone ahead, they've downloaded your lead magnet. Now what? What happens from this point forward? Well, the first thing that I highly recommend you do is, number one, do not put your lead magnet or whatever it happens to be, the tool or the links to it, on the thank you page. What do I mean by the thank you page? Typically, after someone goes to your landing page and they put in their information, which is typically their first name and their email address, in order to get your lead magnet, now what happens is they go to a thank you page. It's just a confirmation page. You might call it that as well. on that confirmation page, you're essentially going to say something along the lines of, thank you for requesting, whatever your lead magnet happened to be. Now, here's a mistake that a lot of individuals who are fairly new to email marketing will make, which is they will say, click the link below to download your lead magnet or, whatever it is, the link to it. Well, let me tell you why that's really a rookie mistake. There are individuals who are interested in getting whatever it is you're offering, but they know that all they have to do to get to the next page is put in an email address. Now, oftentimes what they'll do to bypass that is they'll just put a fake email address in. Well, if they put the fake email address in and they go to the next page and you have your download link, well, what's happened is now they can get whatever it is you're offering, but they never end up on your email list because it was a fake email address. So, in order to avoid that, what you're going to do is on the confirmation or thank you page that they're directed to after entering their name and email address, you're going to say something along the lines of, great, I'm glad that you're interested in whatever it is. Now, check your inbox because I've sent you the information to get your copy of whatever the lead magnet is. All right. So that way, if somebody has entered a fake email address, they're never going to get your lead magnet. So if they really want it, they're going to have to go back to the first page, enter the correct email address in, and then check their inbox. So I hope that helps you understand why we never put download links or anything like that on our thank you or confirmation page. So the thing I want you to do instead is to send the link to them in your very first email message. Now, let me tell you how this is all going to work. When you set everything up properly, and you can do all of this in System.io, through the free account, what you're going to do is create an email message that's going to go out automatically and it's going to go out immediately. And what that's going to do is to say, hey, whoever, whatever the person's name is, I appreciate you requesting my lead magnet. You're not going to call it a lead magnet. You're going to call it whatever it is, my guide, my swipe file, my whatever. And if you click the link below, then you're going to be able to get your copy of it. Now, see, that way, if you do it that way, now what's happening is you know that you have a valid email address that's now on your email list, and you have a way of continuing to connect with that individual. So I do want you to get into the habit of doing that. Now, what I'm going to suggest you do is really have 3 separate email messages that are going to go out. So as I mentioned, the very first one is going to go out immediately. And what that one is designed to do is simply to deliver the lead magnet or, whatever it is. If it happens to be a masterclass, then you're going to put the link in there and now they can click on that and they can get over to watch your masterclass. Let's say you have it stored on an unlisted link in YouTube. There's lots of ways that you can store it. But now what we have to do is we're going to start nurturing that relationship. And then I'm going to come back and share something with you later on. But we're going to assume that this individual has requested it. In that email message that has gone out, you're also going to say something along the lines of, keep your eyes on your inbox because in a couple of days, I'm going to check in with you and, share some additional information. So now what's going to happen is they're getting into your lead magnet. And let's say a couple of days later, you're going to send out this second email. And so in this second email, what it is designed to do is to start nurturing the relationship. So you're going to be able, and if you see me looking over to the side, I'm looking at my notes here. So just so you know that. So what you're going to be able to do then is in that second email message, here's what I would do. The purpose is really to start building the relationship and also being relatable to them. So one of the things things that I would include in there is information about why you created the lead magnet. Maybe you can share a personal story such as, all right, the reason I created this was something I struggled with. And I couldn't find anyone that had something that had been prepared, so I put it all together. And this is designed to help you out. So you're going to, tell them a little bit about why you created it. Again, your struggle, and then this being your solution. And then what you want to do is to let them start to see you. And this is where I would share a little bit about your story, if you will. So, for example, in my second email message that goes out, I tell my story, which is I was a former certified public accountant, worked in corporate America, traveled all the time, missed a ton of family events, and had always had a desire to want to start my own business. So I ended up starting it part time, and I had a couple of failed attempts, no question about it. But eventually I figured it out. Now I changed direction later on in terms of who would the audience that I would be helping, which is the audience I have now. But I share all that because I want them to hear, hey, I'm very similar to them. I did fail at some things. I did have that corporate job. I did, get stressed out. I was looking for something different because if you have identified your ideal customer, they're likely to be, if you've identified them properly, then they're the ones that are going to be downloading whatever it is you created. And oftentimes their story is very similar to your story. So by sharing your story, you are now giving them the opportunity to find a point of commonality. So hopefully that makes sense. Now they can, start getting into that whole Me Too type thing. All right. And then the next thing that you want to do is invite them to engage with you. So one of the things that I include in my second email that goes out is something along the lines of click the reply button. Click the reply button and let me know if any of this resonates with you. Let me know what you're struggling with. So now what I'm doing is I'm inviting them to engage with me. Now, most people won't do that, but some will. And so what I always like to say is those individuals who in fact hit that reply button and respond to you, well, they're kind of raising their hands and saying, yep, I'm definitely in your audience. I'm definitely, the type of individual that wants to get this stuff resolved, or find a solution or whatever. So you definitely respond back to them when they send you a message telling you what they're struggling with or whatever it is you've asked them to share with you. You make sure to respond back to them. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go back and grab a couple of, let's see. Looks like Mickey, you have um, a comment that you made. You said you've been doing it all wrong. Are you sure? In what specific way? Now, I know you're driving, so if you're driving, don't worry about trying to respond. But remember, this is all about learning. Most people don't know what to do. So that's why this topic is so important. All right. And it looks like Denise is on with us, and she said, I need this information too. Yeah, because it is very important that you start to nurture that relationship from the point that that individual gets your lead magnet. All right. Now, the third email that I like to send out, and let me go back. That second email, as I was just referring to, that's starting to build that like factor. They're getting to know you as well. And they're trying to figure out whether or not they like you. And again, if they can find things that you all have in common, that's like one more, way of them saying, this looks like somebody I might want to connect with. It looks like somebody I might want to learn with. All right. So now, and I'm sorry, I should share this with you. Typically, with that second email, you can send it the next day or you can wait a day or two. And remember, you are not the person who's sending it. This is all being done automatically through your email service provider. So as I mentioned, if you're using, let's say, System.io, you're going to tell System.io, here's the first message, send it immediately. Then you're going to say, here's the second message. Send this out the next day or 2 days later or 3 days later, something like that. I probably wouldn't wait 3 days. I'd probably send it either the next day or the second day after that, if you will. All right. So remember, it's going to go out automatically. And that's the beauty of using this. And this feature that's built into email providers, if you will, it's called an autoresponder. And so what will happen is whatever time that individual responded. So let's say, for example, they requested your lead magnet at 10 p.m. at night, their time. Well, what it's going to do, the autoresponder, is at 10 p.m. on whatever day you've told it to send that second message, it's going to send it out. So it's going to mirror the time that the person received the first message. All right. Now, the second or the third message that you're going to be sending out is this. You're going to send a soft introduction to an offer that you have. All right. And you don't have to do this, but I think it makes a lot of sense to do it. So with this, what you're doing is now you're just transitioning from just providing valuable information, which you're going to continue to do in your weekly emails that they will be included on, but now you're starting to offer them some additional solutions. Now, when I say inviting them to a bigger solution or a different type of solution, typically we're starting to move into our paid products. We're going to soft introduce them to our paid products. And so here is where you can say things like additional teaching tips. Now, I also want to say, if you don't currently have a paid product, then maybe what you can do is invite them to watch some more of your YouTube videos, or you can invite them to maybe a master class that you've created. So it really is going to depend on what you already have ready to go. Now, the second thing is you can just highlight some common mistakes and give them to say, I've put these things together and I've put together some solutions. Again, it could be another free product if you want to do that because you don't yet have a paid product. And then the other thing is whatever it is they're struggling with, if you do have a product that will solve it, then what you want to do is start introducing that. So you're going to say there are individuals who have grabbed this lead magnet and it's provided them an answer to whatever the single problem was. However, after going through that, a lot of times people they discover they have this issue, and this issue is going to be solved by your paid products that you have. So what I want you to really get out of this is your lead magnet is going to solve a single problem, and it's free, and it's designed to start developing the relationship. But your email messages that you create afterwards are designed to start making them aware of additional solutions that you have, and definitely to start introducing them to a paid product. So you want your lead magnet to really kind of lead right into your paid products. If they're so completely different than one another, then, it's not necessarily a connection, if you will. It's a little bit of a disconnect. So whenever possible, take your paid product, okay, whatever that is you have, reverse engineer it back to a lead magnet that somebody who is new to that particular thing would definitely and be interested in. Because see, here's the thing that's going to happen with that lead magnet. It is also serving as essentially your first exposure to that person, and more so your first exposure or their first exposure to your teaching style, how you explain things, how you put things together. So if they've seen your lead magnet and they start to decide, or they decide that they like what it is that you offer, when you introduce a paid product, now they're like, well, I've seen what, she's put together. I like her style. She explains things really well. She explained it in a sequential, logical, step-by-step fashion. I like that. So let me check out this paid product. So hopefully that helps you understand how things were going together. Okay, so let's see. Nikki says, I was including the link on the download page. Don't do that. From personal experience, I'm telling you, people will put fake email addresses in just to get that download. And you put too much time, energy, and effort into creating your lead magnet for people to just be getting it without getting something in return. Okay, so just make sure that your first email message is going to include the link as opposed to you putting it on that thank you or confirmation page. All right, so hopefully that helps you understand what happens with that third email. Now, typically with that, after that third email, you want to keep it, like I said, keep that introduction to your product just normal conversation. Hey, you might want to check this out. You don't want to make it salesy. You don't want to be, pushing people. You got to buy this today. You don't want to do that. A hard sell is going to turn people off. The way I want you to think about it is I'm sure you walked into a store at some point and the salesmen were all over you. Can I help you? What are you here to buy today? That typically turns people off. So I want you to position it as, hey, here's an option. This might be something you're interested in. And I also want you to put this in your notes so that you remember this, which is it's typically going to take up to 7 exposures to whatever your digital product is, whatever your paid product is, before people are going to buy it. Now, some people are never going to buy it. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of people are never going to buy it. So, but you are going to have to start exposing them to your digital product so they can at least know it exists. Secondly, check it out. Thirdly, maybe this is something I'll consider. The fourth time, okay, that's intriguing. The fifth time, you know what? Maybe instead of me trying to struggle through all this, maybe I should check that out. Sixth time, all right, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. Then the kids come in, they get distracted, and they, abandon the cart. And then the seventh time, now they're like, okay, I'm getting this thing. So I want you to understand how many exposures it takes before people are typically going to buy your product. And I also want you to know that the vast majority of people are not going to buy your product. You have a lot of people that are simply going to only want the free information. Now that we've talked that through, that doesn't mean that you only offer free information. Last night, I had an opportunity to talk to some of the members of my, we did a live stream and they had a Q&A type session. And so one of the things I was very clear with them on is I'm not interested in them building a community of people that strictly want free information. I don't want you to be the go-to person for all the information that they can get free. Okay, that's not what your goal is. If you have started a business, the pure definition of a business is you're providing a service or a product with the expectation that you're going to earn income from it. That's a business. If it's anything other than that, it's a hobby. Now, if you don't know me, I'm pretty direct about these things, and I'm a former CPA. So I've told a whole lot of business owners, you don't really have a business, you have a hobby. I don't want you to have a hobby. And meaning if you're trying to make your business or confusing a business with a hobby, you want to start shifting that, okay? And so that's where you start offering paid products. And here's the other thing. I don't want you feeling guilty about charging for your products. You've put time, energy, and effort into this stuff. And it just makes sense that if you're going to take the time to organize information, put it together, and share your knowledge, that you get paid for it. Okay? And that's a very normal thing. Think about it this way. If you decided you wanted to go to college, you can't just walk into college and say, I'm here to learn whatever it is, and I don't want to pay anything. They'd say, well, okay, thanks for stopping by the registrar's office, but when you're ready to pay, then we can enroll you in classes. It's the same thing. So I want you to understand that if your intent is to run a business where you earn income, you do have to start introducing paid products. And the reason why I spend a lot of time on that is sometimes people, when I share with them about introducing their paid product in this third email, if you will, they get a little antsy, like, isn't that a little, isn't that a little too early in the process? No, because if they don't want to buy it, they're not going to buy it. And remember, this isn't your last communication with them. This is just a sequence of emails that have gone out. And then you're going to continue sending email messages to them on a weekly basis. So they're going to continue to get valuable information from you that you're giving away free. They're going to continue to get to know you. They're going to continue to learn from you. And I'm telling you, at some point, people are going to pay. All right. You also have to remember that there are going to be two types of individuals at all times. You're going to have people that have a whole lot of time on their hands, but they don't have any money. And then you're going to have people that have money and they don't have a lot of time. That second person is typically going to be your customer because they don't have time to be all over the internet trying to come up with the solution that you have already put together in a logical fashion. They'd rather just pay you and move on. They're paying for the information. So I really want you to understand that's one of the reasons why we're going to be introducing in a soft sell fashion your product at email number 3. All right. Okay. So I'm going to come back and take a look at some of the things. Okay. Mickey says that was great information to get. I hope so, because as I said, if you all are in my audience, I have to assume that you're here to learn how to build a business. And it's so funny because, when I talk, my husband also we have a few businesses, but one of the things that I always share with my husband is, I don't do a whole lot of free. Now, and what I mean by that is I give a lot of free information away, and I don't have any problem in doing that. But the really good stuff, yes, I'm going to charge for it. And I don't feel bad about that. And I tell him the same thing. You have a gift, you do certain things, you should get paid for that. Okay. So, all right. Okay, so this is Sheila. She says, I do that myself. It takes me seeing things multiple times before I buy. Absolutely. I'm definitely that way. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to really understand it. I'm going to evaluate it. And you know what? I don't think I'm much different than Sheila or some other individuals. So that's why you have to make sure that you offer people multiple ways of hearing about or seeing that you have a product. I'll give you a good example for something I'm doing currently. On my email list, what I am doing now is sharing with people that I have a community designed specifically for individuals that want to learn how to build a business, an online business. It's geared toward individuals that are in all different stages, but the vast majority are fairly new. So they're learning how to build an audience by creating content that attracts their ideal customer. They're learning how, or will be learning how, to create email messages that they're going to send out to nurture their audience and how to create a lead magnet and so forth. So in my weekly email messages, what I'm now doing is talking about various aspects of the community. So here's what's going to happen. The same thing. People are going to have to hear about it multiple times before they decide to check it out. And since I know that, I know to come at it from different angles. So for example, the first time I might talk to them about, not feeling alone as you're trying to build a business and the importance of being part of a community or at least having an accountability partner. The second time I might talk about, let's say that you are trying to create a digital product and it's not selling. Well, the reason for that is you probably created it and you don't yet have an audience. So if you want to learn how to build an audience, check out my community. So I hope that helps you understand you've got to come at it from different angles. And those angles should really fall within your content pillars. So just move around through those content pillars, but you know what the end goal is, which is to get people to check out your thing, whatever it happens to be. All right, so now what I want to do, let's see here. I got into that, but I want to stop for 1 second and share with you one aspect of sending out email messages on a regular basis. In Europe, and I have to think of what the law is that they have in place, but they have a law in place that says if someone simply wants your lead magnet, you cannot just automatically start sending weekly email messages out to them. So your software, your whatever your software is, typically has a built-in fail-safe that will prevent you from sending email messages to someone in Europe that has not opted in. So I hope you understand that because, as I said, we don't want anyone getting in trouble. Now, pretty much, like I said, pretty much every single email service provider has a fail-safe built in that will not allow you to send messages to someone that hasn't opted in. I just wanted to make sure that I explained that to you because, that law went into effect, I want to say about 5 years ago. Let me see if I can just quickly uh, tell you what it's called so you can check it out. Give me 1 second. I should have, okay, email marketing from USA. I think this is it. GDPR, that's the name, which is General Data Protection Regulation. And what it does, I'm reading this to you, it requires prior explicit consent or an opt in to receive marketing emails. So anything other than that initial email message that you sent out, it has not really given you explicit consent to actually market to them. It's very important that you understand that because if you were to violate, like if for some reason your email service provider didn't have the protection built in that would prevent you from sending the email out to someone in Europe, then you could potentially get yourself in trouble. I want you to be aware of that. And as an online marketer, you definitely need to be aware of that. Let me see if I can tell you when that went into effect because it's been in effect for a while. Let's see here. I don't know the exact date, but remember it's the GDPR. So a lot of people are not aware of that. And as I said, that's the type of thing that can get you into a lot of trouble. So, all right, let's see here. Okay, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in as we go through them. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is, let's see here. Oh, let's talk now about what happens after those initial email messages go out. As I mentioned, you're going to be contacting them on a weekly basis, and you should set a specific date and time that your email messages are going to go out so people know when to expect to hear from you. Now, I wouldn't be sending out emails, 3, 4, 5 times a week because to me, that's just plain annoying. And I've been on people's email lists because I bought something and they're constantly emailing me. Well, for me, that's the fastest way for me to end up unsubscribing to your list because I don't want to hear from you that often. Now, I know some people don't mind it, but I think for the average person, that is a bit annoying. So that's where I recommend 1 time a week. If you have a special offer a couple of times a week, if you're running a promotion and it has a deadline on it, well, then during that promotional period, you can certainly email them more often by saying, don't forget 72 hours to go before this expires. On the day of, 12 hours to go and, maybe 3 hours before. Everything's closing out at midnight or something. But on a regular basis, keep your emails very, very valuable in terms of the information that you're providing in them, and not too often so that people don't end up unsubscribing. All right. So what I would encourage you to do in these weekly emails is teach. Pick a topic, typically a problem that people within your audience may encounter, and teach them about it. Tell them how to fix it, that type of thing. The other thing is you sometimes want to simply encourage people who are receiving your emails, because let's face it, in a business like what we do, business in general, it can be tough sometimes and people do get down. So you want to encourage them. The other thing you can do is share wins. And this is something I definitely want to address with you, because oftentimes when I'm talking to people, they're so uncomfortable sharing their wins. They don't have a problem sharing their failures in most cases, but sharing their wins, meaning you achieved a certain number of YouTube subscribers. Your community was launched. Your digital product is now available. You created a new lead magnet and had a record number of people who requested it. Whatever your wins are, you need to share it, because people need to know that not only are you talking about this stuff, but it must be working for you because you're growing. And so make sure that you also include that. Now, the other thing is, in your weekly email messages, you also have the opportunity to promote your offers. Now, here's the thing I will say to you. This isn't something you want to do every single time you send out an email. One of the things that I always kind of abide by is something that Gary Vaynerchuk, he talked about in a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. So Jab, 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 Right Hook, it essentially says that if you are sending out 10 email messages, okay, over the course of a period of time, then 8 of them should just be valuable content. And then 2 of them can be a direct hit, meaning here's my stuff, I want you to buy it. All right. So a promo email. Now, if you're promoting something that's free, then, you can talk about it a little bit more. But if it's a paid offer, don't every single week talk about it, because again, that also is going to get annoying as well. All right. So, Sheila, I'm sorry, I'm drinking some water here. So Sheila, have you had that experience of people, you get on their list for something and then you hear from them multiple times a week? I actually had somebody who was sending me email messages like 2 or 3 times per day. I'm like, you got to be kidding. I'm off this list, because, I already have enough email messages. And to have somebody sending me stuff, multiple times per day, that's a bit much. So, if you've experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. And we don't want to be that person. We want to be the helpful person that when our email message shows up in their inbox, they're interested in actually opening it. Okay. Now, let me give you some common mistakes that you want to avoid. And one was not, you said, yes, that's definitely happened to you. I know. And I'm telling you, as soon as that happens to me, I'm immediately scrolling for that unsubscribe button so I can get off their list. All right. So let's talk now about some common mistakes to avoid. And the first thing is not sending follow-up emails. I can't tell you how many people I have talked to over the course of the time I've been teaching women. I mostly teach women, but I can't tell you how many are so afraid to send an email message. But I'm also going to expose myself, which was several years ago. I was that person. I had built this list up to like 2,000 email subscribers. It was in a different industry. And I wasn't communicating with them because I didn't know what to say. And so I was uncomfortable doing it. Well, now, it's second nature to me, but that's because I, took a deep breath and learned how to do it. But this is something that happens, that people will send out that initial email that says, here's your lead magnet, and then they never send out any follow-up messages. They're not sending weekly email messages. They're not making any type of connection. Well, that is definitely a big mistake. The second thing is only sending that delivery email. No, send that message that's going to introduce yourself to them. Send, that message that's going to talk about your story, what you do, how you help people, who your audience is, why you created the product. So make sure, or the lead magnet. The second thing is waiting too long between delivery. Remember, I was saying you want that first email to go out as soon as they request your email, your lead magnet. I don't want you to wait a week to send email number 2 because honestly, some people are going to forget about you in that time frame. So you need to send it out maybe the next day or no more than the day after that. So waiting too long between your emails, that's definitely not something you want to do. And then I addressed this a little bit earlier, which is being overly salesy in that email that's going to start introducing your product. I'm telling you, if you start sounding like a used car salesperson or that aggressive salesperson that meets you at the front of the store, that's another way that people are going to get out of there. See, you're going to have to balance giving people valuable information and with soft selling. And that's what I really want you to be comfortable with. Soft selling. In this day and age, we don't need to hit people over the head, particularly people who are interested in what it is we offer, because all we're doing is saying, "Hey, you're dealing with this issue. I've created a solution. It's available this way. If you're interested, check it out." That's one of my favorite lines. If you're interested, or this might help you, check it out. If not, no big deal. That has to be your attitude about things. Because if you think about it, when you go to a sales page, for example, a well put together sales page, it doesn't immediately start off by saying, "Buy my stuff." No, it typically is going to indicate a problem in the title page or on the title. It's going to agitate it a little bit. It's going to then share with you things like, the frequently asked questions that people might have. It's going to give a little bit about your story. It's going to likely include some testimonials of people that have already used your product. And then there's going to be a buy link. Now, there's typically going to be several buy links throughout that page, but you never know when somebody's going to be ready, but you are not going to see the buy link as the first line of that page. You have to be the same way when you are creating your emails that are going to go out. You're going to tell a little bit, you're going to tell why it's a solution, and then you're going to offer them the opportunity to purchase it. And if they're not interested, then you're going to keep on providing valuable information, and then at some point in the future, they might be interested. All right. And then the other thing is a common mistake is not having a clear next step. You should make sure that your email messages include a call to action. Always a call to action. So let's say in that very first email that goes out, that's delivering the lead magnet, the call to action is going to be, keep an eye on your inbox because I'm going to send you an email message where I properly introduce myself. That's going to be the call to action for that one. The second email is where you're going to tell them about yourself, and then you're going to have a call to action that could be something like, if you're encountering any of these issues, hit reply and tell me about it. I'd love to hear what's going on. Or tell me, if any of this you relate to any of this. That's your call to action. Remember, a call to action is nothing more than the next logical step. Then when we get to the third email, which has your offer included in there, you're going to say in a very non-salesy way, "Hey, check out the, click here to check it out. It might be something that will help you." So again, we don't have to get, real hard nosed in terms of pushing things, making people do things, but we do want to always have a clear next step for them to take. All right. So any other questions or comments? Okay, Denise says, I don't send enough emails. I rarely follow up. Yep, definitely get into the habit of it. And I tell you, once you start doing it, and you start to see that people are actually reading the emails in that, and people are expecting an email. I'll give you an example, and this will help you. It's just like with your and I'm talking to Denise, I'm talking to all of you, but I'm specifically talking to Denise here. People expect that you're going to go live at a certain date and time. If you are sending an email message out on a specific date and time and you don't send it out, somebody's going to send you a message and say, "Hey, everything okay? I didn't get your email message today. I look forward to getting your messages." So, and just remember, that's a way to nurture that relationship. So, you definitely want to do that. All right. And then the next thing you say, I'm learning from you about the story that should be included. Absolutely. We all love a good story. So when you can include things in there, in your email messages that go out, and that's what that second email where you are sharing personal experience, you're telling them what you used to do previously, you're telling them why you specifically decided on this niche, you're telling them who you help, you're telling them how you help them. That's a story. And people absolutely love a good story. That's what they're going to remember. One thing I should have shared with you all last night that we're on, and I'm going to share it now, is there's another book. You guys know I'm always recommending books. I'm listening to this one and I'm highlighting because I have the audio book and I have the physical copy of the book. Was trying to see if I had it up here, but I don't. But anyway, it's called Building Your Story Brand. And in this book, Building Your Story Brand, I have it in my in my Amazon store. Let me see if I can show it to you because I highly recommend that you all get this because what it's doing is it gives you 7 components of a good story. And what it is also stating, bear with me one second while I switch over to this. What it's also stating is that you should make your customer, give me one second here it is right here. I'm going to show it to you. So if you're interested, you can go into my Amazon store. Remember, this is an affiliate link, but this is such a good book. I actually have the first version as well, but he just recently updated it. But it's all designed to teach you how to tell stories within your brand. And what you are doing as part of this is you are making your customer the hero of the story, and you're simply their guide. They want to solve a problem, they're trying to figure something out. You are their guide to help them get from stuck to unstuck and, be the person that at the end of the movie gets the girl or the guy. Okay. So you said Sheila said that she has the book and the audio book. All right, tell me anything about that book or audio book that stands out to you. What is it that stood out to you? Because I'm telling you, I love the book. And I've been listening to it now for I'm not in my car all that often during the day, but I've been listening to it and I'm just hitting rewind, on a regular basis where, I'm hearing specific parts of it. And then I'm thinking about things that I can do within my own brand, if you will, to change things up and things that I know I need to do in a different way. And what he has done is he's actually teaching you the things to do to make your connection with your audience much stronger. So there's a lot of good information in there. Definitely a book that I would encourage you to read. All right, so now if you all have any questions, again, drop those in, but hopefully this information is helpful. If you're finding it helpful, give it some thumbs up, and definitely I'd appreciate it if you share it with anyone that you think could benefit from it. So if you have those business besties, by all means, let them know that you listened to something that could help them advance their lead magnet process, if you will. All right. So the other thing that I would say to you is this, this is just one component of the whole process. And so one of the things I'm going to be doing within our community is this month, well, let me tell you about this part. So this week, we are focusing on creating posts. We're posting content to get everybody into the habit of posting content on their preferred platform so that they can start to grow an audience from scratch or grow the audience if they have already one. Next month, our challenge is going to be creating a lead magnet. We're going to create a lead magnet in 4 days and launch it on the 5th day. So, the rest of the month after that, what we're going to focus on is writing great emails. So, I'm going to be teaching that during the month of May. And then in June, we are going to create a digital product in 4 days and launch it on the 5th day. Yep, it's possible to do that as well because it doesn't take all that time. And I know that there are times when people are getting ready to get ready. They're trying to make it better. They're trying to add something in. No, we're going to launch it and then we're going to learn how to make things better later on in a different iteration. So the name of my community is the Digital Business Roadmap Community. It's hosted on School. In the description box below, you can click the link and you can join. Now you can join free. There is a free level. And if you want more connection, if you want more training and so forth, there are some additional levels that you can upgrade to. But, I always tell people jump in, check it out. If you like it, stay. If you don't, you can always, hit the eject button and get up out of there. So, all right. So Sheila says, you like the way that he describes how to make the story personal. Absolutely. Because I think for most of us, we know a good story when we hear it, but we don't always know how to tell a good story. And telling a good story in your email messages, in your brand is going to be valuable because people will remember a story. Like if you come at them with a whole lot of stuff, just information, facts, and so forth, they're going to start looking at you like, their eyes are going to glaze over. But if you can connect it to a story, and, at the end, you get what you want kind of out of that story, or you tell them what happened, then people remember that. One story that I share with people a lot was my first exposure to going live on YouTube, which was almost a year ago, April 30th. I will never forget that date. And I'm telling you, first of all, I was terrified to hit the go live button. So, I put it off for a long time. Then I said, well, I don't have the right equipment. Then I got all the equipment and I was still putting it off. And then finally I decided, you know what? I'm doing this. And I went live. And it was a horrible experience, not just for the people watching, but for me as well. But I kept going. I refused to quit. I figured out what I was doing wrong. Each time I focused on something. Now, why do I tell that story? Because right now there's somebody who wants to go live on YouTube or whatever platform they're growing on, but they're terrified. I want them to know it might go wrong. You might have failures. You might have, the worst experience possible. But if you just keep going, like Rhonda just kept going and she figured it out. That's what I want them to get out of it. So that's another thing that your stories are going to do, which is help somebody through it, whatever it is that they're dealing with. And if they hear your story and they see that you were able to overcome it, it gives them hope that they can do it as well. Specifically, if you're going to give them the tools and the strategies and, the encouragement, because oftentimes that's what we need to keep going. So, there's so many different ways that you can tell a story. You might tell a story about why you decided to create a specific product. You might tell a story about why you created your lead magnet. Maybe it was, there was something you needed to learn. You couldn't figure it out. You finally figured it out. And so you thought you'd put it together in a logical, organized fashion for other people so they don't have to go digging all over the internet for something. See, people can appreciate that. And I'm telling you, people love a good story. I mean, just think about any movie that you've ever watched. If the movie ended like this, here's people who have a conflict, and then 5 minutes later everything's happy, there was no conflict anymore. You'd be like, that was a horrible movie because I figured it out. You want to see the ups and downs. You want to connect people, bring them in. So, for example, if I'm telling the story about going live, I'm going to tell you what happened. So, for example, one of the things that happened was I didn't have audio for a good portion of, well, I'd probably say maybe 5 to 7 minutes. I was just talking into the abyss and no one could hear me. See, people can remember that. They can relate to that. I can also say to them, that I didn't realize I should be on hardwired as opposed to being on Wi Fi. People will remember that. They'll be like, okay, well, when I go live, I'm going to, use an Ethernet cable and plug in. So, it's all sorts of things like that that you can help people understand. All right. So let me go back here and see if they're. Okay. So Denise says, I just learned how to tell the story about why. Um, about why, let's see here, learn to cook your own food. Whereas I knew good reasons, but I didn't share. But think about all the food recalls a day. Absolutely, enough said. No, that's the thing. And you should have different stories for different things that people are going to encounter. You know your audience. You know the types of things that they're going to encounter. So you can't have just one story. I mean, you could, but you'd miss out on opportunities to share valuable lessons. So by all means, craft stories for different occasions. I guess that's what I'm saying. So let me tell you, for example, let's say for you, Denise, maybe the very first time you cook Thanksgiving dinner, you burn the turkey. I mean, I have no idea, but I'm just saying you come up with what your first was, because somebody in your audience is going to deal with that, and then tell them how you overcame it. So definitely do that. Let's see here. Joe Bain says, hello from Toronto. Very informative and inspiring. I appreciate that. And welcome from Toronto. So, yeah, so just make sure that you craft some stories that you can pull out whenever you need them. And, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, a good story incorporated into your email messages, specifically your weekly email messages, are going to keep the attention of the people that are actually receiving your email messages. Okay. Now, I want to say one other thing so that this doesn't surprise you. The very first email, remember we talked about sending 3 emails out. The first one has the link to the lead magnet. That's going to have an extremely high open rate. What do I mean by open rate? Meaning the people that receive it into their inbox, they're going to open it. It wouldn't be surprising to me if you had a 75%, maybe even 85% open rate, which is very, very high, but normal for a first email that contains something people are waiting for. Normal email open rates are going to be about 25 to 35%. Now, how are you going to even know this? Because in your email service provider, you're going to have analytics. And in those analytics, you're going to see how many people you sent the email message out to, and you're going to see how many people opened it. And what you're going to find is those future emails from you are going to have lower open rates. Now, maybe the second email message has a 50% open rate or a 60% open rate. But that third email message may very well fall into that 25 to 35%. Now, why am I even telling you this? Because I don't want you to be disappointed. I want you to understand what's normal. If you understand what's normal, you won't be disappointed. Last night on our Q&A session, I opened up and I showed them an email message that had gone out. It had gone out that morning. I send my email messages Tuesday mornings at 6:05 a.m. It just works, okay? And so last night, I think I was at about a 21% open rate. Now, what's going to happen for me and what will happen for you is even if when that first email message is opened up, or when your email message goes out, let's say we're talking about that second email. As I mentioned, you might get to 50%, but the very first day you send it, the email open rate is probably not going to be that high. But over the course of a few days, it's going to go up as more people check their inboxes and open the emails. And that's where I'm saying on average, you might get to about 50%. Same thing with that third email message that's going to go out and future email messages. The very first day you send it out, the open rate is not going to be as high as it will be 1 to 2 days later. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, there are a lot of people that do not check their inboxes or their email messages every single day. So it may take them a day or two before they actually read it. So hopefully that's helpful to you because I've seen a lot of people really get disappointed when, they were expecting that more people would open their email messages. It just, that's industry standard, 25 to 35% open rates. All right. So let's see here. Denise says she's going to work on stories about canning in a well-stocked pantry. For those of you that don't know, Denise has an incredible channel. I definitely tell you to check it out. As a matter of fact, she's going to be live tonight. So that's her handle on YouTube. She has nearly 100,000 subscribers. And one of the things that she's talking about is that these stories or sharing the stories will support her canning course and her digital products. Absolutely. As I said, everything you have to think about what it is you ultimately are selling, and then you have to think about how you're bringing people to that product. So part of them are going to come from your lead magnet. Some of them are going to come from your email messages. I mean, when I say come, I mean to that digital product. Others are going to come through your traffic source, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever it happens to be. So all points have to end up at your digital product. That's ultimately what you want to do, where they're at least getting an initial exposure. And don't be surprised if, as I said, people may be exposed multiple times, but the first time they see it and when they actually buy, it could be 6 months or a year in between the time frame. So, your whole goal is to make sure you're out there promoting your digital product. And here's another thing I'm going to say, and this is a little bit off topic, but related to what we were just sharing, which is that's why I don't recommend you have a ton of digital products. You want to have a digital product that people are interested in, and you just continue making it better. Now, you can add on things like an upsell, an order bump, and a couple of upsells to that, but work on getting one product selling first before you start adding a bunch of other stuff on. Because if you have, let's say, for example, you have a page that has 15 digital products and you send people to that page, one of the things that's going to happen is people are going to get on that page and they'll see all that stuff, but they may become overwhelmed because they don't know what to buy. And because they don't know what to buy, they just click away. And it's because people would rather not make a bad decision. So to avoid making a bad decision, which is buying the wrong product, they just don't make a decision at all. Or the decision is, I'm not buying anything. But if you only have one product that you're really focusing people in on, and once you get that thing selling and you add all these additional, order bumps and upsells and that's where you can increase your overall cart value. So don't feel like you're not going to be able to earn income. You will. The second reason why I encourage you, especially when you're fairly new, to really focus in on one digital product is whatever you release, whatever digital product or course you release, you are responsible for keeping it updated. And if you've got 20 digital products, that's a lot of products to specifically have to focus on every year updating them because things change. AI has come into our world and, changed things. New tools are going to be available. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'd rather that you have a narrower product portfolio that you can really, hone in on and become known for that than to have 25 products or 20 products. And then people are coming back to you and saying, this thing is not updated. I'll share a personal story about something I bought last year, and I was highly disappointed. It was a course that a very well-known individual, very well-known, had sold. It was over a $300 course. Now, I'm not complaining about the amount, but the course hadn't been updated in like 4 years. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This is just unacceptable. Now, I don't want you to be that person, meaning the person that is selling stuff that hasn't been updated. And it's because you've got all these other products and you don't have time, or you're constantly out there creating new products. No, focus in on one, keep it updated, make it better each time, do some new iterations, get some testimonials, and get that thing selling. Okay. And then you can add other stuff on later. All right. Okay, so any other questions? I know I've been on for a while. All right, so I'm going to get ready to wrap up because I appreciate you all being on here with me. But one thing that I want to also focus in on is the importance of repetition. And I kind of talked about this in a couple different areas today. And it's really that your audience is going to need to hear multiple things or hear the same thing multiple times. So if you're training on something, just know that you're going to have to share it more than once. Remember that sometimes we have to hear things over and over before it clicks. And you heard me talk about the fact that I'm listening to Build a Story Brand 2.0. And I've been hitting rewind because there's things that I need to hear again. The other thing is I will listen to that and then I'll probably listen to it a second time and then read the book. Okay. We have to hear things multiple times because sometimes we're not ready for the information. Same thing is going to apply with your audience. And then also you have to remember that new people are going to discover you every single day. That's why you have to be willing to share things over and over again as well. That's why you also have to periodically introduce yourself again. One of our things in our posting challenge, our very first post for this week, was to introduce yourself. And I know some people were like, why? Well, because you've probably had some new people come into your audience that don't really know that, in my case, that I was a CPA. A lot of people don't know that I've had, businesses for a long time and that I've shut some businesses down and started new ones. So I have to tell my story. I also tell people why I focus in on people that are 45 years of age and older and how I teach for that specific group. You have to do the same thing. So just understand repetition is going to be important, and also, being consistent, making sure that you are in fact sharing with people information on a consistent basis. And that's where, going back to email messages, don't send an email. If your day to send email messages out is Wednesdays, let's say, and then you send it out for 2 weeks in a row and then you shut it down for a month. Now people are like, what happened? Did she quit? Did she, what happened to her? I don't know what's going on. And then you want to pop back up. And I'm sure you've all seen this type of message, which is, hey, I've been away for 6 months and now I'm back. Well, if people want to learn a specific thing and you suddenly disappear, they're just going to go find somebody else that can teach them, somebody that's going to be consistent. So being consistent is also an important thing. All right. So with that being said, if there aren't any other final... Oh, let's see here. Hello from Gig Harbor, Washington. My dad lives in Washington, in Vancouver, as a matter of fact. So beautiful area. Well, I appreciate you being here. And remember, if this is something that you, in fact, are interested in learning this type of content, I'm here on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, don't forget to check out the community, my school community, the Digital Business Roadmap, and that community will continue to grow. I'm excited about the people that are coming into it. It's very new. As a matter of fact, I just recently began allowing people to come into the community. I think just a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. So, you can be one of those individuals that helps to shape the community, if you will. So, all right. Let's see here. Denise says, I think she's talking to someone in the chat here. Let's see. Yep. Now about the Story Brand book, about that, I've got to open it up again. Yeah, I highly encourage you to actually read that. So, all right. Well, I have been on here for a little over an hour. I appreciate you being on. Remember, the replay is always going to be available as well. And if there are any specific topics you'd like for me to cover, you on a future live stream, you can drop those into the comments section. I'll read those after we are done here, and consider those as topics to cover in future live streams. All right, so thanks again for being on, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So have an awesome day and an even better week. See you soon. Bye.